Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you are all doing well, and welcome to another edition of Diaries with a Bodybuilding Dad. If this is your first time watching one of these videos, first of all, thank you for tuning in along part of my journey to the bodybuilding stage as a brand new dad. If again this is your first time, I would definitely recommend go back, watch some of the previous videos. While there isn't one every single week, it will at least kind of get you up to speed with where things are at. For those that have been following along, thank you once again for tuning in. Just make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, so that just more people can discover these videos and follow along and hopefully learn some good stuff from you. But it has been a couple of weeks. Our daughter, Quinn, who is 7 months, has just recently started teething. So it has been a little crazy in the Weeb household. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of cuddling, which is never a bad thing, but it certainly has, taken up a lot of that extra time that you used to have when you weren't a parent. And I'm sure, that's something every parent can attest to, and I think that is certainly going to want to be the more interesting things of how to navigate as I continue to go through this process. I know it's not going to get any easier, at least that's what I'm told, and I do put my trust in those people that do tell me that. So that's why there was really no video last week, just a lot of lack of sleep, very tired, and some of the days it was just, trying to do the minimum, get through the day, get to bed, so that I could rest up and we could do it all over again. So it feels good to be back though and getting this started again. And we recently have had quite a big change, but before we kind of get into that, let's just go ahead and quick recap the last, well, it has been a few years since I have been on the stage or have even really dieted, but for the sake of time, we will only really recap the last little few months here. So really the biggest focus for me these last 6 to 8 months has really been just about building as much muscle as possible. And I think as I look back on it and reflect on it, I certainly could have done a better job in a few areas. I think that would have helped me along and probably maybe let me build a little bit more muscle. But it's certainly one of the tougher things during this journey is to really find that balance. And so I think sometimes we can definitely swing one way more than the other. And there were probably a few instances where I probably swung the way of maybe not tracking as closely as I should have, maybe had a few too many drinks on some weekends as well, but I think overall it was a very, very good building phase for myself. I was able to put on about 10 to 13 pounds. How much of it muscle, it's hard to say exactly, but just by looking at pictures and comparing, I would say that while yes, I certainly did put some body fat on, which is part of it, of course, I did build some quality muscle. And so I think it was a overall pretty productive off season and a pretty good concentrated building phase that I was in over the last kind of 6 to 7 months. So now that as we do get a little bit closer to the time that prep is going to be starting, we are now doing a little bit of a diet. And so the goal here, and I'll put up a little picture here of my physique right now, as you can see, definitely living the fluffy life, but if we do kind of compare it to those starting pictures, you can certainly see some muscle that had been built, especially in the legs, which was one of my weak points, chest as well, and maybe a little bit of shoulders. And so now as we do get closer to the time that we're going to start prep, which is going to be roughly January, February, it is time to cut a little bit. So at this point, I'm sitting right around 210, 213, which is roughly about 40 to 45 pounds over stage weight. And anybody that has ever been through a prep or a major fat loss phase will tell you that typically you don't want any more than 30 pounds to lose when you are going into a prep. Not that it's not doable, but when you do get above that 30 pounds, it can be difficult to get as lean as you need to be on stage, or as lean as you want to be on stage. So what we're going to be doing here is we're just going to be bringing down the body fat through a bit of a mini cut. It's quite aggressive, but that's the point of the mini cut, because it's not going to be so long. We are going to get pretty aggressive, and so the real initial cut, and probably really the only cut of food that we're going to be doing, is pretty aggressive. And so I was at 525 grams of carbs. We're now down to 200. I was at around 75, 80 grams of fat, and now we're down to 50. Protein staying the same, right around the 240 mark. So obviously quite a big drop, but when the goal here is to get in, get out, get that fat loss going, we do need to be aggressive so that we can kind of get to that point as quickly as possible. And so our goal here is to get me right around the 192 pounds, which would be right around a 20-pound weight loss over the course of this cut. So quite drastic, and what this is going to be able to allow us to do, and I keep saying us, I should mention my coach who's been helping me out, Alberto Nunez through 3DMJ, has been absolutely fantastic, and have already learned a ton from him. But basically our goal now is to get me to that weight, and do a little bit of a physique check as well. You know, where are some of those areas that maybe we need to bring up in another specialized building phase to get me ready for the stage? Where are those weaker areas? And so it is a little bit harder sometimes to really get a sense of where things are at when we are holding a little bit more body fat. You know, what's fat, what's muscle, you know, how big are we actually? So this is just going to be a great opportunity for us to drop some weight, get me closer to stage weight. Then, you know, so that's going to set me up for prep. So I'm not going to be having to drop 40 pounds. We're already dropping 20 now. And then it's also going to give us a sense of where we need to, you know, spend a little bit of extra time before prep does start in that January, February, build through fall. And then we are off and running and going for the real thing this time. So far we are about, you know, 3-4 days in. Has been a bit of an adjustment for myself. Just really kind of coming off of, you know, 500 plus grams of carbs. You know, making that transition to 200 can be a little bit difficult, because on one end, you are used to eating that much food for that long of time. That first initial adjustment can be pretty difficult, but I would say that I've been able to hit my macros pretty dead on every single day, and things are already starting to move. And this morning we woke up at right around that 210 mark, so just over a couple days we've already lost 3 pounds. While that can be exciting, you know, I do know that part of that is going to be bloating coming off because of the big drop in carbohydrates. We're maybe having some glycogen and water leave the body as well. So first week is more so just going to be that type of loss, and then once we start getting into and past the first week, then we're really able to kind of judge the type of fat loss that we're achieving at this point. Cardio wise, really nothing too structured. I take 2 to 3 walks with my dog, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes each a day, and that's pretty much it at this point, plus my training 5 times a week. So overall, very, very manageable, because body fat is a little bit higher at this point. You know, my hunger signaling is still okay, so hunger isn't quite too bad, but definitely sure that that's going to start to crop up as we get a little bit closer to that 190 pounds. But yeah, that is, you know, the overall plan. That is the overall goal here at this point. I'm definitely curious to see, you know, how this goes, you know, with a kid. You know, the first few days, what I have kind of noticed is that it has the potential, I think, to make the dieting phase just a little bit easier. More so in the sense is anytime there is, you know, downtime, well, I'm usually busy with her. I'm playing with her. I'm hanging out with her, and so I can, you know, that is going to be a great distraction. I'm not saying that I'm using my kid as a, you know, to distract me from things, but it certainly can help take your mind off, you know, food, right? Because when we're busy, we have our mind engaged with other things. It can be, at least for me, I know, be easy to kind of forget about my hunger, forget about eating almost. And I've had that a lot in my off season is, I'll get into my work day, and before I know it, it's been, almost half a day and I haven't even eaten any food. And so I think that's going to be pretty helpful as we go along. Now, of course, there's always that other side of, when my recovery is low, my hunger is high, my energy is severely low, and she's going to need attention and this and that. I'm still going to need to be a dad. I am sure that is going to be one of the difficult parts, but I think it'll be a great challenge, and I think it'll force me to grow and to learn more about myself and to push myself to levels that maybe I haven't quite pushed myself to yet. So far so good. It does seem like it's going to be all right at this point, but I'm sure there's definitely going to be bumps in the road, just like any journey. And it's going to be just about how do I navigate those, how do I move past those and keep progressing forward. So I think that's going to be it for today. We are going to wrap it up there. So super excited to get this diet started. I just want to do a little bit of a recap this week and give a bit of a sense of where things are going. Next week, plan to kind of talk a little bit about the training and really just kind of keep things rolling along here now as we kind of come within about a year or so of competing. So starting to rubber meets the road here, starting to get a little bit closer, and so everything's coming together, and I'm super excited to continue to bring you guys along on the journey here. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and we'll chat next time.